everybody. Welcome to FSU Coach Live. My name is Tim Baghurst, and today's guest is Gunnar Gartner. He is a high school coach and teacher. Gunnar, thanks so much for joining me. If you wouldn't mind, just give everybody a little bit of background of how you got into coaching and teaching.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here. Well, where do I start? Well, it's a big cliche when I say that I could write a book on my coaching career because every coach has a journey, but how I got into coaching, I probably could. So I'll start back in 2013, back when I was in high school. So I was involved in a bad car accident where I'm from Panama City Beach, Florida, and one day I was just sunbathing on the beach, and I was run over by a Ford Bronco. He was a beach service worker hauling a jet ski. But he ran me over completely, and I was fortunate. I was almost on my stomach, and so I just walked away with concussive-like symptoms, a fully blown meniscus, just a fractured vertebrae, and so I was very fortunate to walk away from that.
Just a fractured vertebrae?
Yep.
Wow.
Just a fractured. Yes, sir. It could have been a lot worse, and I'm very thankful. But the reason why I brought that up is because that happened when I was in high school. I was an athlete in high school. I was not the best athlete by any means. I had a great work ethic. I was determined, and I had a great heart. But once this happened, my playing career was done in high school. No thoughts of playing at the next level because that was done. And so all I focused on was going to school and just and physical therapy and just getting through so I can graduate. And so then I went to college, and same thing, focus on school, focus on recovering. And then one day I'm like, okay, well, I need to get some type of a part-time job, something that will help out with my career goals at least, or help out and look good on a resume. And so I fell into substitute teaching. So I did that in college for about 3 years. And after about that 3 years, I got a full-time job at a local high school, or not, my bad, it was a local middle school. And so then I did that. And then one day I'm sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, well, I need volunteer hours. They have a football team. I have really good relationships with these players and these coaches. And I'm like, why not? I mean, I can give back to my community. I can give back to the game that I love. And let's see what happens from here. And so all I did is I just asked the athletic director one day. I was like, hey, can I help out the football team in any way? I'll work for free. I just want to help out and give back to these kids. I want to make a difference. And he was like, yeah, we'd love to have you. And so I was a middle school coach for 3 years in football. I also did track and field at that same middle school. And then, after about my 3 years, 2.5, 3 years of middle school ball, I was ready for a change. I was ready to move up. And so I reached out to the local high school, and Rutherford High School, and Coach Lawrence Tillman, he said, come on, we'd be happy to have you too. And so the rest is history, and that's where I'm at now. I'm a teacher at Rutherford High School. It's my first year teaching there. It's my second year as a coach, first year as the head JV football coach and assistant varsity coach. I also help out with wrestling at Rutherford, and I'm also this year newly dubbed the girls head track coach. And so, like I said, the rest is history.
Okay, so you have all of these responsibilities, these titles. How do you manage that and be a teacher and, by the way, be a student in our program, which isn't easy, I don't think.
No, it's I love this program, but it's very challenging. So I have to wear a lot of hats. But being a coach has really helped me out in that, because when I didn't realize how much a coach has, how the responsibilities a coach has when I started. I'd wear so many hats, especially at the middle school level, because you're a coach. You have to deal with these kids, these middle school kids, no less. You have to be an athletic trainer. There's so much responsibility, so many hats you have to wear. And then once that helped prepare me to be a teacher, a coach, and a student. So that helped me figure out, okay, well, this is Monday through Friday. When it's time to work, I come to work. It's school. It's time to focus on what I'm going to do, my lesson plans, focus on what I'm going to do with my students. Then once that's over, let's focus on football or whatever sport I'm doing. And then once that's done, go home and let's focus on school. And so it's a matter of all about time management and trying to put time aside for everything that's important, because it's all equally important, but just trying to find the time and figuring out what needs to come first.
Okay, so what does come first?
For me, I'm a teacher. I'm a teacher, then a coach, and then I'm a student.
Mm-hmm. So you told me just before we started that the JV season is over. How'd that go?
It didn't go nearly as good as I wanted it to. We didn't win a single game. I think we went 0-8. Um, but and it was tough. It really was because the kids they fought hard. They fought so hard every day at practice, every game. They played with so much pride, or as we like to say at Rutherford, they played with Ram pride. They played with their hearts out. They fought for me. Everything I asked them to do, they would. And when I have a JV team that's primarily sixth, seventh, and eighth graders going up against a JV team from another school that's ninth and 10th graders, I mean, they're going to give their all, but there's going to come a point where just they don't have the strength to be able to compete with those other students. But like I said, it was tough and it was challenging because, there'd be times on the bus where I just sitting there and I felt so bad for those students because I want them to get a win because I know how hard they fight and how hard they want it and they don't get the results they want. Granted, they get points on the board but at the end of the day, we don't get that victory. We don't get what they want. And so that's the biggest frustration for me as a coach.
So how do you deal with that? I mean, it's got to be blunt, it's got to be horrible. Just here we go. We lost another one, and again and again and again. How do you cope with that, understanding that your athletes are obviously disappointed too?
It's tough, but the biggest thing is I can't let them see that I'm disappointed. I have to have a facade that no matter how I feel on the inside, if they see me, they're going to react to it. So there's times where I'd have to go off to the side, collect my thoughts, just compose myself and then go talk to my students because I would never let them see how I truly felt because that would really make it for a train wreck. And so that's just the biggest thing is just composing your thoughts and just reflecting and a lot of reflection and just trying to figure out what can I do to make the results better.
So what do you do?
Like I said, well, fortunately for me, I have mentors that I can call and I can text and just shoot from them like, hey, tell me something that you can get some advice you can give me, or what's something that you've gone through a similar season, you've gone through similar instances. What did you do to cope? This is what I'm doing. What are some things that you can contribute that might help me better?
When you look at where you are now, right? You're volunteering, you're in charge of a group of young men. You're a lot of athletic directors will look and say, what is Gunnar Gartner's record when he applies for these jobs down the road, we're assuming. And 50% of teams are under 500. You're one of those teams. How do you market yourself in a way that gives you a look at those jobs where athletic directors are looking for quote unquote winners in terms of successive teams or successive programs?
That's a great question. Well, first of all, I don't think that athletic directors, at least at the middle school level or like the JV level, they should not be concerned about winning ball games.
They shouldn't be.
No,
But
they should be more concerned about what can this coach do for my students. Will this coach will this coach the kids? Will this coach be a father, be a mentor? What is he going to do? Will they play for this coach? Will they come back tomorrow? Or are they just going to quit? For me, I'm going to do my best for the kids. I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that they're playing the best of their abilities, and I'm coaching the best of my abilities. I mean, I'm not going to play. They're not going to play a perfect game. I'm not going to coach a perfect game, but yet I need to reflect and try to do better on that. And same thing with them. Okay, well, this is what we need to work on. And so if I had to be marketable, it'd be the fact that I'm just going to be there for the kids. I'm there for the students. That's really what it boils down to. And as much as I would love to win, as long as I can build those relationships with those students and they'll play for me, and especially at the JV level, if I can just go ahead and put it in now that this is what we want at this certain program so that they can stick with it by the time they get to varsity, they've already been with the program for X amount of years. And so once they get to varsity, they know what to expect. And so that's when they can start to win.
You're a volunteer coach, and volunteer coaches often have very little power, shall we say, or control. How do you handle that, knowing that maybe you could help the program or help a sport better if you had more decision-making ability?
Well, Well, first of all, this is actually my first year at Rutherford that I'm actually a supplemental coach. But before
Oh,
then, but I've only been coaching for about 4 years, and this is my first year I've actually been paid. Then all the other three were volunteer. But
not a
still,
volunteer coach anymore.
but still, as a volunteer, I mean, your say is important regardless because you're there with those kids. I mean, if the coach doesn't value what you have to say, then you need to leave. You need to find a program that they value you. They want you there because at the end of the day, you're volunteering your time for these kids. You don't have to be here by any means. And so and it's frustrating if you have something you want to voice but they don't want to listen to you, you have to bottle it up. But I've been fortunate where I've been that it's all hands on deck. Where you have something to say, well, what is it? Or if I have something to say, I'm not going to just say in front of all the coaches. I'm going to pull a coach aside and be like, hey, this is a thought I have. What do you think? Oh, that's an excellent thought. Go present that to the head coach. But at the end of the day, like I said, if you're not valued, you just need to find a program that wants you.
When you look at your career this far in coaching, what would you say have been some of the challenges for you as a coach?
Some of the challenges. Well, one challenge for me as a coach is it's parents. The parents have always been a big challenge, especially as a football coach, because on one hand, I understand that the parents want what's best for their kid. They want to get them playing time, and as a coach, you try to get them their playing time, but yet you can't always ensure that they're going to get that playing time. And so one thing about parents that really frustrates me is what they see in a game, they feel that that's what happens throughout all of practice. But that's not true. Come to practice and see how your son or your daughter is being coached, and you'll know that they're being treated no differently than everyone else. It's just, unfortunately, for some circumstance, either they haven't been practicing long enough or they haven't been on the team for very long. They just can't play as much as everybody else. So parents and parent involvement has been a huge thorn in my side as a coach. And another thing too is just ensuring that your paperwork's up to date, because you have to make sure that these kids, if you have a kid playing that their insurance is not up to date, or if something of that nature is not right and they get hurt, well, that's a lot of that can have a lot of serious repercussions.
Going back to the parents, I think you're not alone in the environment, right? Where parents want to say or have an opinion. Have you found any ways that have helped you deal with parents, or deal might not be the right word, but work with parents as opposed to having to cope with them, as an example?
Absolutely, that's another great question. I've been a part of programs who where they've allowed open practices, and I'm personally not a big fan of open practices because if you invite a parent out there, there's a good chance that they may try to overtake their coach's responsibility and focus and just coach their son or their daughter. But at the same token, when you have an open practice, you tell the parent, come on to practice and just watch and see what we do. That can give the parent a better perspective of, oh, okay, I'm going to step back and let you do your job. That's the biggest thing is the parent, they need to entrust the coach. The trust that the coach has with their student should be there. I mean, the fact that for me, I'm the head JV football coach. So not only do I have trust from the head football coach of our Rutherford football program, I also have trust from our principal and our rest of our admin team. So if I have trust from them, I should essentially be able to have the trust from the parent, but that's not always the case. And so having open practice can really help with that issue.
But you just said you don't like open practices.
Yes. So if it were me though, I wouldn't want to have an open practice, but I would have a parent meeting before before this year starts. Always have a parent meeting, and that's where you establish the ground rules that say, hey, these are the coaches. We're going to coach your son or daughter like we would coach our own child. We're going to love them as we're going to love them as hard as we can coach them. And once we stop coaching them, that's when we stop loving them. That's when they need to worry. And they're going to get it no differently if it was our own son or daughter. And so, those, like I said, those parent meetings, that's when you can have those open forums. If a parent has a question, they can discuss it there. Or if you need to talk to the coach, pull them to the side. But I feel having a parent meeting you should always have a parent meeting before the season begins.
We're talking with Gunnar Gartner. If you have a question, just put it in your chat box and we'll get it to him. Let me go back to the parent meeting. What are your thoughts on parent coach contracts, where you highlight expectations of the parent of, do's and don'ts? Is that something that you employ, or is it just the meeting at the beginning where it's a verbal understanding?
Well, a matter of fact, last year when I was the head track coach at the school I used to work at, that was one of the things that I did is we had our parent meeting and I gave a contract that the parent as well as the student had to sign. And in that contract, it listed all of our expectations that the number one is you're a student athlete. You are expected to maintain yourself in the classroom and in the hallway. And if you don't live up to these expectations, you're not living up to what we expect of you. You're not living up to the middle school expectations, then we need to do something here. And then that lets the parent know that they're a student athlete and this is what we expect. And by having the signature, and I can see if it's a parent signature as well as a student signature, I can say, well, you both signed this. So therefore, you can't tell me that you don't know what my expectations are.
Right, exactly. Thinking in general, you've been coaching for 4 years now. What are some of the highs and lows that you've experienced?
Well, some of the lows and then the highs. The highs is always when you see those kids get the victory and see how excited they are, or just seeing them make a great play, and just when they're successful, that's the always the biggest high. Just seeing their smile on their face, and you know that all that hard work is paid off, and they know it too. That's always been the biggest high. And some of the lows is always when you see a kid who gets injured and they're out for the rest of the year. And that's always been the biggest thing for me, especially those seniors who, and I can relate to this too, because I got run over my junior year. So I couldn't play football junior or senior year. So I can relate to these kids. They get hurt and they're done for the rest of the year. It stings. But, that's where I got to tell them. I said, you know what? I mean, it sucks. But at the end of the day, everything happens for a reason. You have to find some type of silver lining from this. That's why I'm in coaching. I found a silver lining when I got run over, that I was essentially called to coach. I was able to use that to be on these lives of these young men and women and say, okay, I experienced adversity to the highest of the high, and I overcame it. I got a college degree. I'm still in college pursuing a master's degree, and I'm out here coaching because I want y'all to be the best that y'all can be. Y'all have an opportunity to play these sports that I didn't, but y'all do, and you can use this to escape and to have fun.
I think you're the first person on our show who's currently a student in our program. So congrats for that, by the way. But I'm curious, why do the masters? Because it's an expense, it's an investment of time and money. It's a lot of work. I'm not going to lie, it is a lot of work.
Yep.
Why do it? You don't have to. You're already coaching. You've already got a career ahead of you. What difference does a master's in coaching make? I'm curious what your motivation is.
Well, just because I'm coaching doesn't mean I know everything about coaching. I still have a lot to learn. I mean, I have a lot to learn. And these kids are going to continue to evolve and adapt. I need to do the same thing. And there's a lot of situations that I've dealt with, but and I know that I could have dealt with them differently. It's great relying on those mentors, but at the end of the day, they don't know everything too. And so the biggest reason why I chose this master's is because I wanted to do something that was going to help me further my career and something that was going to be beneficial to what I was doing currently. Because my undergrad's in criminology and criminal justice, but I'm in education. And I want to be in education and coaching for a while. And when I found this program, I was like, I read about it. And after speaking with you, I was like, this is for me. This has got my name written all over it. And again, this is where my path has led me to go down this master's program. And so, like I said, I can continue to learn. And the day a coach stops learning, that's when a coach is downfall, because like I said, coaches need to adapt with their players at the high school and middle school level. Even regardless of any level, there's going to be situations that a coach needs to be able to deal with. And the way times are changing, some coaches don't know how to deal with some of these situations. And this class has really been beneficial for me in so many ways, and still is. And I'm just looking forward to seeing what this will help me do. And besides, I would like to eventually coach at the collegiate level, like as an internship. And I felt having this degree would really help me with my knowledge level too. So where that time, if it were to come, that I'm ready. And so I'm not just some coach with just experience on the field. I have the experience on the field, but as well as in the books as well. And one more thing, I'm sorry I'm really long-winded on this, but it really helps me show that my students that I'm a student athlete too. I still put in the work. Therefore, if I can do it, you can too, especially considering my workload is a lot more hectic than yours.
Yeah, of course they don't believe that their workload is less hectic. I'm sure. Penultimate question then, if you're looking at coaching and those who are going into coaching, what advice would you have for anybody interested in coaching or improving in the coaching career?
Well, the biggest thing is if you have a passion for teaching, passion for coaching, pursue it. I mean, I never would have even thought about it if I hadn't made a phone call to the athletic director of that middle school, and he said, "Come on, we'd love to have you out there." But yeah, just pursue your passions, and also you have to find a mentor. If it wasn't for me, with all these, I can't name names because I'd be missing some. But you have to find a mentor to help you with your own personal growth and development. And without those people in my life, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. And so again, just pursue your passions and find a mentor, and never stop growing and never stop learning.
I said penultimate question. I'm wrong because we got a question in the chat box and I'm going to put it up on the screen. Belford Williams Jr. says, being a hardworking player with high integrity and character doesn't always yield to a winning season nor playing time. You talked a little bit about this. Even though we want to instill more things into players other than just the will to win, how do you justify your position as a coach to an AD or parent who questions your ability due to lack of wins? What metrics do you use personally to assess if you're doing a great job as a coach beyond the win-loss column? Good question.
That's a great question. Well, like I said earlier, and this past season, I had a JV team that was a lot of 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. And so I'm not saying that, granted, there's middle school teams that can compete against those 9th and 10th grade JV teams. But for me, though, I can justify my lack of wins, the fact that I'm going to give those players everything I have. And I'm going to make sure that I'm doing the best I can for them. And that's the biggest thing. And if I stop doing what I can for those players, then that's the time I need to go.
Yeah, I might also add in there that physical metrics, skill tests, can be very valuable to do preseason, midseason, postseason to show improvements in your athletes, which they can then take home to parents of, I may not be winning, but look, my 40-yard dash is improved, my bench press is improved. Not that bench press is necessarily a metric.
Absolutely.
I would argue against that one. Maybe we could. That's another discussion. But improvements in the skills that they're doing to show improvement allows them to see progress, as opposed to, well, we lost again. What a shocker.
Yeah, but they're improving in so many other ways. I mean, they're learning leadership. They're learning how to be a team player. I mean, this past year, you can see a vast improvement in how our players were at the beginning of the year towards the end of the year in the classroom. I was getting emails left and right from teachers, but then that's the beginning of the year. But then by the end of the year, I was getting emails that were positive, and so it's just the little things like that. And like you said, they're working in the weight room too, and their maxes are getting higher and stuff like that. And the summertime, especially, that's when they really work in the weight room. And I think it's beneficial too, because I'm gonna have a lot of kids who want to play other sports, and that's going to help them be beneficial in football as well. And so at the end of the day, if just being a well-rounded student, that's what it boils down to.
If somebody does have a question for you watching it on YouTube at another point, or our podcast, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
So you can always reach me via Twitter, which is at Gartner. Or you can reach me via my school email address, it's a mouthful. It's gartnmg@bay.k12.fl.us.
And the Twitter handle is Gun, Gungartner,
yes,
for those listening to the podcast. Well, Gunnar, thanks so much for joining me. I do appreciate your insight and experiences, and of course, look forward to having you in more of our classes.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, everybody, just a reminder that each and every week we have a guest on the show, so be sure to subscribe, whether it be Facebook, Twitter, YouTube and watch on. Thanks so much for watching.